What's the greatest match in sports, anime, and manga history? There are some strong contenders. Seirin vs. Toei Academy, better known as the Battle of Flow State between Almine and Kagami, or when the stakes are at their peak, like Slam Dunk's penultimate match, Shihoku vs. Shona. Take Eyeshield 21's peak, Cebu vs. Diamond, where the metaphors swirl to their most profound. What about the individual matches in series like The Prince of Tennis or Ping Pong the Animation, or the dozens of iconic fights in Ashita no Joe or Hajime no Ippo? All of these matches and series have etched their mark in the history of the sports anime landscape, but there's only one match that rises above them all, offering up a recontextualized idea of the entire story while also leaving the reader with their jaw on the ground. Karasuno vs. Kamomedai. For any match to be considered the greatest of all time, a good place to start would be the stakes. While practice matches and friendlies have their role in the story, nothing comes close to the tension of a knockout match, especially when it's on the brightest stages these characters will play on. For Haikyuu, that stage is playing at Nationals. Every game on the national stage is like Karasuno fighting for their life. First against Inarizaki and the Mia twins, then against their greatest rivals, Nekoma, and finally, the Seagulls of Kamomedai. The stakes are set up beautifully leading into Nationals through the All-Japan Intensive that Kageyama goes to. At the camp, we're introduced to three incredible second years that become goalposts for Karasuno: Atsumu, Sakusa, and Hoshiumi. Fur sets up our expectations so that we think Karasuno will have to go through all three of them on their way to winning Nationals. Add in the previous setup for the Tokyo teams with Nekoma and Fukurodani, and there are a slew of teams Karasuno will play on their way to the top. This match is framed as the face-down between tiny giants, Hoshiumi and Hinata. Since Hoshiumi is the second of the great players Kageyama met at the Intensive, there is a strong feeling from the reader that Karasuno will make it through this match. The setup is pretty clear. Hinata beats Hoshiumi to become the best tiny giant in the tournament, and then he will have a chance to solidify himself as the ace against either Sakusa or Bokudo, or both. Furudate toys with our expectations at the start of the match, and he also dials up the tension by making Kamomedai an amazing blocking team, a national reflection of the regional blocking powerhouse, Date Tech, the team that almost broke Karasuno only 1 year earlier. On top of that, Karasuno are in the top 8 of the national tournament. Exhaustion will reach its peak in this match, as you fight for a spot in the Final Four. While stakes and tension matter, that isn't enough to make a match enter the pantheon of the greatest the medium has to offer. Here, the stakes function as a way to force character growth. A signature of a great match is great character moments. Haikyuu has no shortage of those moments throughout the series, and Kamomedai comes with a flurry of payoffs and realizations that reveal the true intentions of the story. It has always been a running joke of mine that you know the characters in Haikyuu are good when you find yourself caring deeply about the audience members of a volleyball game. Characters commenting on the action is a storytelling device that can get tiring quickly, but here it is essential to the themes and pacing of the match, and also each audience member gets to develop on their own. Some characters continue their growth during a match, and here we get a new one introduced, Karasuno's original tiny giant, Tenma Udai. Tenma has been a framing device for the entire series. Where could the player who inspired Hinata have gone? What heights could he have reached at this point? Yet Tenma, who inspired Hinata to play, quit playing volleyball. Even though he no longer steps on the court, he still hovers over this match, giving insight into the battle of tiny giants. The first insight given is simply Hinata's response to his idol no longer playing. He doesn't care. An indication that maybe Hinata's journey is a little bit different than we originally thought. Tenma also allows us to see the amazing differences between Hinata and Hoshiumi. That these two players don't play the same way, a realization Hoshiumi comes to on his own at the end of the match. They aren't limited to one way of being great. Tenma doesn't only comment on the current tiny giants, but he also shows us another path that competing in sports can take you. In flashbacks throughout the series, we have seen the intensity Tenma played with in high school, how deeply he cared about the game and about winning. Not much later, he stopped playing, with no regrets. There is a common idea that exists for younger players competing in sport, that they will regret not trying harder when they're no longer playing. Maybe that's the case for some, but it is totally normal to give your all to something and simply stop playing one day. Stop playing and have no regrets about it. That leads me to Hiragumi the Immovable. One of the best individual blockers Karasuno has faced. What separates his character from the rest is that he doesn't particularly like playing volleyball. Having an aptitude for a sport or craft doesn't mean you have to dedicate the rest of your life to it. Hiragumi played volleyball out of obligation because his family is so dedicated to the sport. That drove him to intense burnout and an eventual feeling that he doesn't like volleyball. Burnout is so common in life, and especially sport. When you have buried yourself deep enough into an activity, you can lose clarity on why you're doing it in the first place. After Hoshiumi tells him why doesn't he just take a break, it clicks for Hiragumi. Volleyball and sports are not games of life and death. Whenever he wants, he can simply stop playing and nothing bad will happen to him. Hiragumi continues to play with that understanding, an understanding that he might not play much volleyball past high school, and that understanding allows him to play freely. Playing freely, making choices on the court that are within your skill set but change depending on the situation, is the sign of a great player. That is what this match becomes, and what makes it satisfying for the reader. Hinata watches Kageyama play freely, Kageyama sometimes submitting to what's best for his spikers, and other times pushing them in a direction they may be reluctant to go to, but need to for the betterment of the team. Everyone in this match starts to play at their best. Of course, that includes the ace, Asahi. None feels the pressure of an elite blocking team quite like your ace. In the past, Asahi had failed to overcome the pressure of great blockers. Self-deprecation is an obstacle that all of us have to fight off. The culmination of hard work can mean little if you're unable to trust yourself. This match is the payoff to all of that hard work. The reader and his teammates know that Asahi can be as good as any player on the court. In one of the coolest moments in Haikyuu, a moment that reassures us why it was so worth it to go on this journey, Asahi thinks, today, for once, I'm going to trust in myself. And the results are an ace who can play freely. Each character in this match is functioning at their best, and the back and forth scoring is some of the best in the series. As the match flows, so do those who give commentary on it. A couple of the match's greatest moments come from coaches commenting on the game. Washio has lived out his adult life coaching under one principle: overwhelming athletic ability, height, and strength is the way to win at volleyball. That guiding philosophy is the core of every decision Washio makes while at Shiratorizawa. That led him to Ushijima, one of the top 3 spikers in Japan, a physical presence that is enough by himself to crush teams. Washio's philosophy gets results consistently, until he runs into a short first year who lacks the polish and technique of the best players in the country. But his speed and instinct make up for it, and he and his team beat Washio and Ushijima. Washio's philosophy is yet to be cracked at the end of the Karasuno Shiratorizawa match, as he can justifiably chalk up his team's loss and the play of Hinata to the brilliance of Kageyama as a setter. After an interesting training camp and a few brilliant matches on the biggest stage, the core of Washio's philosophy is reaching a breaking point. Hinata goes toe-to-toe with one of the greatest blocking teams in the country. Separate from the skill of his setter, Hinata has shown that he can stand with the best players his age. As Hinata breaks free from the expectations of how he can impact the game as a shorter player, Washio starts to think, could I have played that way too? Character development here that is used to punctuate big moments on the court. Those big moments with Asahi, Washio, and others are a key element into what makes Karasuno vs. Kamomedai a storytelling masterclass. All of those moments string together perfectly through the flow of each set. The first set of this match almost sneaks up on you after the emotional experience of the Nekomo match and the longest non-Karasuno match, Fukurodani versus Mugen Nizaka. Things don't seem as desperate at the start. We ease into the match, and the strengths of the smallest players on the court immediately shines. While it feels like the game is off to a mundane start, that is what it means to compete against a read blocking team. They might not get to your spikes right away, but over the course of a long game, the pressure they put on the spikers and setters become extremely difficult to overcome. The end of the first set is where doubt arrives for the reader. They didn't just lose the first set, but lost it handily, even when they're playing relatively well across the board. You start to really wonder, could they lose this match? The second set becomes all about the ace. Each team has a few standout players, but for Karasuno to get one of the sets, they will need their ace to play like it. Great blockers were able to break Karasuno's spirit in the past, but now Asahi is able to persevere and show that he's one of the best hitters in the entire tournament. Previously for Karasuno, a wall stood in front of them. Now, vines hold them back, keep them stiff. And in a moment like that, there's only one player who can drag your team to a win. The ace. Asahi fulfills that role and keeps Karasuno in the match, a clear indication as to what reality holds in the third set. Asahi is the ace, Hinata the decoy. The final set of this match is truly where the tension and payoffs swirl into one of the most amazing sets of chapters I've ever read. It is almost as if every player has reached a flow state, and it leads to an incredible back and forth. Right when Karasuno starts to slip, it happens. Hinata receives the ball, then smashes it through Kamomedai's wall to take a 14-13 lead. Here, Hinata shows his growth as a player. Hinata has become a well-rounded powerhouse. He and Hoshiomi aren't competing for one spot, but pioneering new ways of playing that fits their skill set. Hinata then lands after scoring the point. The tide has shifted. Karasuno feels unstoppable. Then Hinata collapses on the court with a fever. His excitement about playing at Nationals led him to not eat enough, and the result is he can no longer stay on the court. Karasuno eventually loses the match without their greatest decoy. Hinata wants to keep playing, and is ready to sacrifice his body to play just a bit longer. At this moment, Hinata wasn't denied playing volleyball because he's small, lacks talent, or because of a freak injury. He can no longer stay on the court because he didn't do everything off the court that he could have to ensure his body could handle the strain. In this moment, it isn't about natural talent or instinct. Hinata has earned his place on the court through his preparation. However, when he doesn't take care of his body enough, the results are an early exit from the court. Volleyball in sports are not solely about your time on the court, but the moments before and after matter just as much. Eating the right food, getting enough sleep, studying outside of sport, becoming a well-rounded person. All of it is volleyball. Hinata watches the rest of the match online, but now he has a greater understanding of what it means to compete. He started with just chasing the ball. By the end of his journey, he has a clear view from the top. This has been the message of Haikyuu since the very beginning. It was never about Hinata becoming the ace, but about Hinata learning to play to his strengths and prepare the right way. The conclusion of the match is followed by one of the most profound monologues in all of manga. Everyone who steps on the court experiences losing. But it is the brave and bold who continue to pursue sport in spite of that. Because you may be defeated today, but what will you become tomorrow? Here, Karasuno's journey to winning nationals is stopped. This is the farthest we will ever see this collection of players get. While you may be able to guess the ending, there are only two possible outcomes for the match, a win or a loss. It is the manner of the finish that is so gut-wrenching and elevates it to a different class of storytelling. Furudate could have simply had Karasuno win and Hinata go toe-to-toe with one of the top aces in the country. The path chosen instead captures the abruptness that comes with sport, defies expectations, and reveals a much more complicated story for Hinata and his teammates. The nature of competition means that one day it'll end, and when it does, it'll be abrupt, without warning. You walk off the court at the end of a match, and it very well could be the last time you're with this group of players. From the beginning, Haikyuu wasn't a story about what it takes to win, but what it takes to stay on the court. Those two questions seem so similar that you would think they have the same answer. When Hinata collapses on the court and Karasuno loses the match, the reader finally understands that it's about the process of playing. As the years go by, that is what you reflect on. That is what shapes you, not the wins and losses. Hinata fails to stay on the court till the end of the Kamomedai match, but he will have a chance to try again, and the next time, he'll be prepared. This match sits as the greatest sports match in all of anime and manga, for how it plays with your expectations of what it means to compete. This match is filled with tension, character moments, and thematic depth, but it also takes a huge risk. No one would have batted an eye if Karasuno went on to win nationals, besting Sakusa and Bokudo. I am sure those matches would have been incredible to experience. Each would have had great character moments and profound ideas. The Kamomedai match reaches for something different, a truth at the heart of every sport. Winning's hard, especially in a team sport like volleyball. Sport is often about the unexpected. Sometimes that's in the form of a middle blocker who moves so quickly you can't catch him. And sometimes the unexpected happen when the team you love the most loses when you thought they would win. Even after the match, you come away thinking, my favorite team was the better team out there. But it doesn't matter, they still lost. And everyone has to move on. When you are done experiencing any great match in sports, anime or manga, you can't help but think that you can play that way too. Every time I read Haikyuu, and this match in particular, I find myself thinking, volleyball is awesome. For any great match, each player on the court leaves asking themselves one key question. What could they become tomorrow? Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Haikyuu is one of my favorite stories ever. It's been such a key story for me to talk about on this channel, and I hope one day we get to see Karasuno versus Kamomedai animated properly. Thank you again for watching the video, and I hope to see you in the next one.